Boker two. Today's daf yomi is Bava Basra Kuf Lama Beis, Bava Basra 132. Today's daf yomi is dedicated for Yeshua for the Shvuyim, Shmir for the Chayalim, and Atzalah for the Shvuyim. So we're going to start on the top of 132a. The Gemara is discussing the idea that if a person wrote all of his assets as a gift to his wife, even though normally speaking, a gift takes effect. In this case, we say it's an umdana that he didn't really want to give all of his assets to his wife. We assume he wanted to just put her in charge of the estate so that the children would respect her. So now Rava asked the question, by Rava, the Bari Hayach. And we assume that when the Gemara was discussing that was referring to what's called a shchivmer, a man who was sick and he was afraid he was going to die. What will be the halacha with respect to a Bari, a healthy person? We say b'shchivmerahu tinichoy du'ishtama'un mila, that by a shchivmera, by somebody who's sick, there we assume that he would say, I'm giving you all my assets, I'm putting my wife in charge because he wants them to listen to her after he dies. Bari ha-kai-iyu. But if he's by a healthy person, he's still there. And so since he's still there, and he's standing, he's going to be the one to make sure they respect his wife. Odelma barinami nichue mila mehastra. Or else, no, it's to his advantage that they listen to his wife now, and so therefore he didn't intend to give it to her as a gift. He intended to make her an executor even from this moment. So how do we decide this? So Gemara says, let's try and bring a proof. Actually, the Gemara is not going to explicitly decide this. The Gemara says, Tashma, Kosev, Paris, Nechasav, Ishto. So the Gemara is going to bring a proof from a Brisa. A person writes a contract that he's giving the fruits of his assets to his wife, meaning to say the woman has a ksuba. She has a ksuba, and the ksuba gives her property, and there's a lien on the husband's property that goes to the wife. But now he gives her the fruits. So does he mean to say that he's giving her the fruits, that she's basically waiving her right to the ksuba in exchange taking the fruits? The Bride says, no, it doesn't mean that. The man writes fruits of his assets to his wife. She still collects the karka. She still collects on the real estate. She hasn't waived her rights to the real estate by the fact that he wrote her the fruits. Let's say, let's say he writes to her that he says, I'm going to give you the half or a third or the quarter of the real estate and not just the fruits. I'm also going to give you part of the real estate, minashar. So then what she does is gova ksuvasa minashar. She hasn't waived her rights to the ksuva. She collects that real estate and she could still collect the rest of the real estate. Let's say kasav kolna kasav lishto, but now, and this is the case that is relevant for us. Let's say he writes all of his assets to his wife. V'yatzav shtarchov, and then after he wrote all of his assets to his wife, he says, I'm giving you my entire portfolio. And then afterwards, an IOU, a note came upon the estate, meaning to say the wife had a lien on the estate when it was just her ksuba. But now that he wrote her all the assets, if she in fact waived her rights to the ksuba and took all these assets, but the problem is that there was a lien on those assets prior to the wife getting them. So now what's going to be the issue? Did she give up her ksuba to get those assets? And it was a bad deal on her part because those assets had a lien on them. So Rabbi Elazar Omer tikra matanasa v'tamod al ksuvasa. Rabbi Eliezer's other position that what we do is we tear up the gift, meaning to say, we say she ignores the gift and she goes back to her ksuba because she's not going to lose her ksuba in this case because the lien of the ksuba came before the lien of this note holder. And we say that when he wrote her all of his assets, it wasn't so that she should waive a right to the ksuba, and now she gets this as a gift, but it was that she should get additional things in addition to her ksuba. The Chachamim Omer, whereas the Chachamim are of the position, Tikra ksuvasa, v'tamod al matanasa, v'nimtzas karechas mikan u'mikan. The Chachamim say she made a bad deal, tear up her ksuva, and she got this gift, but now she lost the gift because there was a lien on it. And so therefore she loses it in both directions, literally bold from here and bold from there. She lost her ksuba and she lost the gift because there was a lien on it. Of course, if the husband gets other gifts, the Rashbam points out she's going to get the more land for the ksuba. But right now it was a bad deal. And so the Gemara says, V'amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda the baker said, it happened one time with my niece, who was also my daughter. Well, my niece married my son. And the incident came for the Chachamim. And they said, tear up the ksuva, let her stand by the gift, and she's bold in both places. So we see from here, says the Gemara, that what's the reason that she loses the real estate that the husband gave her? Because there was a lien on it. Because there was a lien on the estate. But if she didn't have a note on it, then we're going to say Kanya, that she has indeed acquired the gift, the land that he gave her. Ubamai, and what are we talking about? If you want to say that the husband was somebody who was on his deathbed, it can't be that that's what we're talking about. Meaning to say, but didn't we say that he didn't intend to make her anything other than an apotropos? He didn't intend to give her to her completely. So it's obviously the case, elav bibari. So meaning to say, we say that when he gives her to her, when he's a shlimara, he obviously didn't intend to give it to her as a gift. He intended to make her into just the manager of the estate. So that can't be our case here because we said he gave it to her completely. So how is it a case that he gave it to her completely? So we say that it must be that he was a healthy person. And we say under these circumstances that she has not become an apotropos, but it becomes a total gift. And so that's how we answer the question. So what we're talking about here is Allah Bari. So the Gemara says, no, it's not a healthy person. It could really be that we're referring to a person who's sick, but like we said yesterday, that some of the Amoraim said by a shlimera under discrete circumstances, even by a shlimera, it's going to be a gift. Rav Avira mukila bekul. According to Rav Avira, it refers to all those women were mentioned earlier, meaning to say not just a betrothed woman and not just a divorced woman, but also a daughter amongst the sons and a wife amongst the brothers, and all those women he intends to give it to her as a gift because he's not trying to get them to respect her. And Ravina Mukila Ishta Aruso Ishta Grusha, whereas Ravina says it's referring to a case where his wife was betrothed or divorced, where he's not trying to inspire respect in her, so therefore he intends to give it to her as a gift. So that's what we're referring to. It doesn't answer the question about a bari, about a man who was healthy, and he said these assets. So now the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yosef Bar Menyumi, Amar Rav Nachman, Halacha Tikra Ksuvasa V'Tamara Matanasa V'Nimtzis Kerechas Mikan Mikan. The law is in this case, you tear the ksuva, tear up the ksuva, you stand on the gift, and she is going to be bold in both places, meaning say she loses out. So you say, oh, wait 1 second. Must be that Rav Nachman is of the position that we don't follow an umdina. What does an umdina here mean? An umdina is the evaluation of the opinion. That means we say from the perspective of the umdina, we could say, even though from the perspective of the umdina, we would say, listen, she's not going to wait for ksuba for something that she's not going to actually get anything because there's a lien on it. So nevertheless, we're going to say that even though we would have said she would never have waived the right, she still loses it. So that would be so when we say we don't follow an umdana, we don't say, oh, she would never have made the deal if she knows this. So Rav Nachman, who says that the law is she loses out, he must say we don't say an umdana. But how could that be the case that we don't say an umdana? V'atanya, but didn't we learn in the following brisa? Let's say his son went overseas. Vishama Shemes Beno, and he heard that his son had died. So he got up and he gave away all his money. Matana. And afterwards, if he gets up and he gives it away, we're going to say it's a valid gift, even though he wouldn't have made the gift, because if he had known his son was alive, we still say it's a valid gift. Whereas Rabbi Shimon ben Asi Omer, Ein matana matana, his gift is not a gift, because if he had known all the facts, that his son was still alive, will cost fun. He never would have written it out. And Rav Nachman said the law is like Rabbi Shimon ben Asi. So you see, Rav Nachman says we do say an umdana that if he would have known this information, he never would have done this. We say that in the case of the son, and we say that also in the case of, we should say that too in the case of the woman who accepts this gift, that if she had known that there was a lien on it, she never would have given up her ksuva. So Gemara says, no, shani has, and no, that case is different over there. The nichala, the tepa kala, the kasvinu nihila la'anu nechasim. In this case, we don't say that because we say that it's to her advantage that the word goes out that she's such a distinguished woman via next to her husband that he wrote all of his assets to her. And so therefore, as a result of this benefit, she waived the lien on the ksuba, and she's not concerned that there is going to be a lien holder that comes and takes back her gift. I mean, say she got an immediate benefit. And so therefore, that's why we don't say the umdana in this case. So then the Gemara says, Tanan Hasam, the Gemara brings a different law. So the Gemara doesn't answer the Abaye about what do we say in the case of a man who writes all of his assets to his wife as a gift. Do we say that he's just making her a manager, even if she's just a healthy person, even if he's healthy at the time? So now the Gemara brings an additional law about whether or not a woman waives her right to her ksuba. So we learned in the Mishnah in Mesechas Peah, if a man writes his assets to his son, so he writes his assets to his sons, and he writes in the contract that he's giving to his wife a little bit of real estate. And he's not explicit whether or not he's giving her this real estate and, with the intent that this will be in exchange for a ksuva, or he's giving it to her as a gift. So in this case, ibda ksuvasa, we're going to say she loses her ksuva, meaning to say she's not able to collect from these assets that were given. Hold on one second. To the other children, she can't collect her ksuva from them, because since she wants this gift, she shows that she was okay with him giving these other assets to the children, and she cannot collect the ksuba from them. So the Gemara asked the question, wait 1 second, Mishum de Kosovo Karka Kolsho Ivda Ksuba. So because he gave her a little bit of real estate, she lost her ksuba. So the Gemara is going to say 3 answers. Amarav, answer number 1, B'mizaka Lahan Ayada. No, that she did, through this real estate, she effectuated the transfer of the other assets to the children. That's one answer. I mean, she was actively involved. Shmuel Amar b'machalek l'fanei. Shmuel says, no, it happened in front of her. So she clearly waived her rights. V'isha sekes. Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina Amar b'omer la tzli karka zu b'ksuvo seich. It's where he explicitly said, take this real estate for your ksuva. So since she did not object, clearly she waived her right on the other asset. And the Gemara says, Umikue ksuva, or on top of Kluf Amabeis 132b, Gemara says, Umikue ksuva shanukan. This law is one of the leniencies that the sage has established with the ksuva obligations, because we say that a woman prefers to get married. She prefers to get married than to remain without a husband. And so therefore, for this reason, she waived her rights under these circumstances to the ksuva. So the Gemara says, is that really possible to say that? Because if we continue with the Mishnah and Peah, Tanan, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Im Kibla Aleh, if she explicitly waives her rights to this lien that she had in these fields that were given to the children, to the sons, even though he didn't write that it's a gift, Ibduk Suvasa. So Rabbi Yossi says, if she accepts it, then even though he didn't write anything to her, she loses her ksuva. Miklal, so doesn't this imply the Tanakama Savar Ksiva v'Kabbalah by? The Tanakama's other position that he needs to explicitly say to her that she needs to explicitly say she's waiving her rights and needs to write it. And so therefore we see Rabbi Yossi's arguing and saying that it's just enough to say it. And so therefore, how can we say this is difficult? Because this is not like all those three Amoraim earlier, that when we asked them that why does she lose her rights, and we say different umdanos, because we assume that she was waiving rights. But here we see that according to Chachamim, she needs to be explicit about it. And if you want to say these earlier positions, if you want to say that this entire Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi is just explaining it, Vatanya Amar Rav Yehuda, Emasai, when do we say this case that if he writes her the real estate, she loses her ksuba? That's only a case that she was there and she accepted it. But if she was there during the writing of the assets and she didn't accept it, or or if she accepted it and she wasn't there, she does not lose her ksuva. So we see from here that it is explicit that we can't say that the whole Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi, because it's explicit that according to Tanakama, she needs also to write it and also to accept it. And that's not like Rabbi Yossi. So the Gemara says, to you have to decul to you have to. At first glance, it seems to say that this position that she needs to be explicit is a refutation of Rav and Shmuel Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. So Amalei Rav Nachman, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Chanina. We learn up until now the position of Rav Shmuel and Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. But so Rav says to Rav Nachman, what's your opinion? Amalei Shani Omer, I say if he writes all the assets in front of her and he gives her a little bit of real estate, even if she didn't say anything, because by writing this, he considered to be a partner amongst the sons. Ibda ksuvasa, she's lost her ksuva. Basically, because he's elevated her, she's waived the rights of the ksuva. And in Marnami, indeed, we say, she's lost her ksuva. So the Gemara says, Bai Rava. So now the Gemara says, so basically Rav Nachman is not speaking according to the Tanakama, who requires writing and accepting, but he's going according to the position of Rabbi Yossi, and basically it's enough with either accepting or with just writing. So Bai Rava Bebari Hayach. So now the Gemara says, the third time we asked this question in the last few days, but let's say this person is writing all of his assets to his son, and he gives a little bit to his wife of real estate, and he's healthy. What will be the law there? Do we say she also loses a ksuva because he made her a partner amongst the sons? Mi amrina b'shchimera hudi yada deleisle v'kamachle. Do we say that it's only where he's very sick and she knows he's not going to get anything else, and so therefore she should have objected to the gift, and from the fact that she didn't kamacha, she's waived her ksuva. But by a healthy person, sabra hadarkani, we assume that she assumes that he's going to really acquire more assets and collect her ksuva from them. And so why should she get him upset And so therefore she was quiet, not because she really wants to waive her ksuba, but because she knows she's going to get it in the end. Or maybe now he doesn't have anything, so she's waiving her rights. Teiku, the Gemara leaves this question unresolved. Now the Gemara brings an incident, that a couple of incidents actually. The Gemara says, Ahuda Amaru, there was a person who was a shchimera. He was sick, and he has two daughters, and he gave them his assets, and he says, Palgo of Ras to Palgo of Ras, half to one daughter, half to the other. Vitoto isas beperi, and 1/3 of the fruits, should be to my wife. Ikwa Rav Nachman was Surah, all Agabe Rav Chisda. So Rav Nachman came to Surah, and he went to Rav Chisda, V'amarle ki agav namai. What's the law in this case? Meaning to say, do we say, since he didn't make her a partner amongst the daughters and the real estate, but only on the fruits, and so therefore that's not really anything that has chashivos, and so therefore she hasn't waived her ksuba. Meaning to say, it's only when you made her a partner amongst the brothers, then she'll waive her ksuba, because it's just movables at this point and not real estate. So what's the law? She's waived her ksuba even if she just got one palm tree amongst the assets, because he gave her basically an ownership of the land with respect to fruits, and so therefore she lost her ksuba even though she just got fruits, because he gave her ownership over this portion of the land. Awesome. He said, Shmuel said it there because he gave her basically a palm tree for its fruits. And so that's something in the essence of the land. But here it's just the fruits themselves, which are moved. Oh, it's movables? For sure, I didn't say it in that case. For sure, I didn't say it in the case of movable. We'll do the second case. There was a person that said, and he was a shlimera, and he had two daughters, and he gave them his assets, and he says, Tiltal of Bras for Tiltal of Isa. 1/3 to my daughter, 1/3 to my other daughter, 1/3 to my wife. Shchiva Chami Bante. Then one of the daughters died. And so therefore, her father inherited it, and again, he got the assets back. And now the question is, can the woman collect her ksuva from these assets? Because from one perspective, she could say she waived her rights. On the other perspective, we could say that she could collect from them because she's able to collect from assets that he got after this gift. The Savra Papa member was Shakla Alatlasa. She can't take the ksuba, only that third, and she can't get the other fruits. But Amrei Rav Kahana, Ilu Hadar Kilosha, Ilu Hadar Vikani Miloshak. If she would have gotten other assets, he could take them. Also in this case, she could take them. And then we'll just do the last case, the last story here. On the top of 133a. Yahuda Palginu and say there was a person who was sick, Shlimera, and he divided up his assets. Is a save livnei. He divided them up between his wife and his sons. But he didn't divide all of them, only Shir Chad Dikla. He left behind one palm tree. So ever Avinu Memar Leisla El Chad Dikla. All she has to collect from the ksuba is one palm tree. Because since he divided up the assets and she became a partner, and so therefore she was waiving her rights, all she has now is one ksuba, one palm tree. If she doesn't have anything, then she also shouldn't get one palm tree because she waived her rights also on this lien. No, so we say because she wants to come and collect her debt from this palm tree, then also she could also collect it from the other assets that he gave to his sons. And so therefore she has not waived her ksuba. Okay, we'll do this last case. Probably we'll do it again tomorrow. That's today's daf. Baruch Hashem. If anybody has any questions, happy to address.
Thank you.
Shkoyach.